Well, this is one tool for loosening rusty bolts, especially if you have it hooked to a impact. So that's my air compressor. There's my impact wrench right down here. And I'm going to say one thing about this PB Blaster, man. I always love this shit because it works. Give it enough time. Got one can there that's got stuff in it, but it's kind of lost a lot of its compression. But if you look up in here, finally got these bolts loose up on the straps for the tank, for the gas tank, which I could bring down now. But it really worked. It wasn't just the PB Blaster itself. You could use heat, but you don't want to use heat around by a gas tank, right? I don't think it would blow anything up, even if you're pretty careful with it, because if you're real localized with the heat. But I didn't want to do that because I figured I'll be on the safe side. So here I'm using PB Blaster, and I just put it on there every day for about a week, and finally broke them loose where they were spinning. Then I put the vice grips on the other side, and I just kept putting. But I was taking my time because I don't have to worry about. This isn't a customer car or something. I'm not a mechanic, and but you know what? If you put the PB Blaster on there and you're hitting it with the air hammer, then you put more PB Blaster on it and let it soak for a day, then hit it with the air hammer. You're shaking a lot of that rust loose, and it gets down deep in there. And as you're shaking it loose, that's getting more of it in there. So what I'm going to do next, because I want to pull this bumper off, those bolts back there, those are 15 millimeter deep socket. It turns out it's the only damn socket I don't have, unless I have it in a 1/4 inch drive, but I don't have a 15 millimeter deep socket, in a 1/2 inch drive. My impacts skip over it. It goes from my 14 to a 16. I can't believe that shit. I got 2 sets of those things with no 15 millimeter. Yeah, I got 2 sets of these. These are they're Stanley, they're foreign made, but the Stanley's not too bad, actually, foreign made. But I got 2 sets of these, and I got Craftsman, I got SK, and I got Armstrong, and Craftsman USA. But both sets skip over to 15, so I ordered some more on eBay to finish this up. But using that PB Blaster with the impact wrench really works the best. The other thing I like to use, though, but I didn't want to use it around a gas tank, is this junk. Just a little propane. And propane will really you put some heat on there, that'll really loosen up the rusty bolts. I could probably have done that for the straps, but I'm no hurry or nothing like that. But I think it's going to be a problem getting off the filler neck too. That thing is probably on there. It's been on there basically 40 years. So I would expect, right? The problem with me is these aren't, I got tools in that box, other boxes in the sheds, and most of my stuff, I got a lot of repeats of SAE. I got a lot of metric, but probably got twice as much SAE as metric. Even though this car's a 78, it was starting to get metric on it. So kind of surprised they skipped over my 15 millimeter on that set, man. It went right from 14 to 16. I got 2 damn sets. I was thinking, holy shit. But I do have a 15 deep socket in a 1/4 inch drive. I'm not going to put an impact on that damn thing. But the point is, when you're using these things, you want to hit them. You want to hit them with the PB Blaster, then hit it with this. Hammer it with that thing. And as you hammer it, that PB Blaster is going to get in some of the microscopic pores past the surface rust you hit it on there originally. So you're going to be going hitting it with this thing, right? You can see my trigger's funny because that trigger broke and I had to modify it to fix it. And that's what'll break it free. I was wondering if those bolts were going to have to be cut off with an air chisel or something, but they finally came off. But because The good thing is, I got all the time in the world to do this. I mean, this is not a job that I need to do right away. And, you know, if I needed to just use the car, I can fill it up with gas and just be aware that the gas gauge always says full. That's the only problem, right? But I want to pull off this back bumper to get this shit in here. This is like one of my last rust jobs, which just be easy once you pull this thing off. But it's got some 4 bolts on there that are 15 millimeter that are the deep sockets, which I got in order. But I just want to say, if you're using this PB Blaster, that's the best junk in the world to use as far as you know, the type of stuff to loosen rust. Liquid wrench I found is not that great, and WD-40, that's more like a lubricant and a protectant, and it's really a minor protectant. It does work on rust a little bit, but nothing like that stuff. But that stuff works 100 times better when you're hitting it with impact, or you're tapping it with a hammer or something like that. And there's one other product out there that I used to use a long time ago. It's called Kroil. K-R oil. K-R-O-I-L. Kroil. That stuff will just sit on there and sit on there and sit on there. The thing is, you got to give it a lot of time. And that's the thing too with that. You got to give it a lot of time. Which is cool. That's the advantage of not being a professional mechanic, because I could take my sweet time on this bullshit and be doing other things instead of saying I got to rush this out of here right away. Because this was a car that was for, say, I was a professional mechanic, and I was trying to, those bolts were in there bad. They were in there for like 40 years. I probably would have cut them off. They probably would have been cut off or some shit with an air chisel, or used a Dremel tool or something, or grinder, you know, cut off wheel or some shit like that. I would have cut them off and replaced them. And I probably would have replaced the straps and everything else, but I'm not going to buy all that shit. I'm going to reuse everything because it's cheaper, and they'll be recoated. And like I said, I got all the time in the world, but that stuff will work if you give it enough time. But just hammer it. Hammer it. Even if you don't have one of these things, if you take a screwdriver and a hammer, and I usually use this is one of my busted up screwdrivers I kind of use as a chisel sometimes. You just tap around there with a regular, you know, excuse me, a little ball peen hammer. You just tap all around there while you spray that junk on there, and you give it enough time, it'll work. It'll work. But the air hammer, I mean the air hammer actually works pretty good. One of the damn useless tools I got out there is an air ratchet, which I don't really use. Those are good for bodywork people usually when working on new cars and stuff. You know, no rust. But yeah, so anyway, just want to pass that on, because that PB Blaster does work. You just got to give it enough time. The other thing is, you want to tap it and vibrate, especially with the impact. But if you don't have an impact, just just tap around there with a hammer and screwdriver all around the bolt and let that stuff soak in there. You give it enough time, it'll work. The other product out there that works really, really, really well is Kroil, K-R-O-I-L. But other products I've seen, they don't really work that good, man. They don't really work that good. Nowhere near as good as that shit. I don't know, because it's been around a long time. PB Blaster and Kroil. Kroil, the reason I don't use Kroil right now is because, you know, I can go in Wally World and get PB Blaster. For some reason, Kroil I think is actually better in some ways, but you know, it's tougher to find. That's the thing.